server side, and we can always use the help to determine if that's happened. Let's see, so I got a question from Robert here. If you know that the developers are using a tool like NUnit for their testing, how would you change your testing processes? Well, let's expand that to say if we know that the developers are doing good unit testing in general, whether using whatever unit testing frameworks they're using, but they've got some sort of automated unit testing framework that they're using, and it's bundled into some continuous integration system like Hudson or Cruise Control or something like that, and then they, those tests get run automatically. I think this actually has can have a fairly profound impact on your testing, because if that sort of thing is happening, then for one thing, you can assume that there's a lower level of bugs. So likelihood, when you're doing your risk analysis, again to go back to risk-based testing, and you're doing your risk analysis, likelihood of bugs goes down across the board. And what that means, or what that very well could mean, is that the amount of coverage required, the amount of testing coverage required to reach the same level of confidence is going to be significantly less. So instead of developing 10 test cases to cover a particular test condition, you might say, I'm perfectly happy to develop one or two. So obviously that's got a great deal of efficiency gains. Now I think also when you know that there's really good unit testing being done, I think that creates an opportunity for us to focus more on kind of this coarse-grained use case type of testing and business logic testing, and less on like field by field input validation possibly, and less fine grained, because good unit tests, and they do need to be good. I mean, it's not like anybody can test, as we know, right? But assuming that there is good unit testing happening, that's going to comb out a lot of the sort of fine-grained issues that we might otherwise find. So really, at that point, what we're talking about, what kind of bugs are likely to remain? What's the role? Well, end-to-end type of stuff, right? Where you do something in one part of the system and that results in something happening in another part of the system. You got to verify that those proper things have occurred. That's really sort of that becomes the primary function. So, I think this is really great that we start to see more and more organizations where this does happen, that's like I'm working with a client just now where they've got this great system. You go in and these Hudson systems set up, and they're creating their tests in various frameworks depending on which language they're using, and that all gets checked in, and tests get run automatically as part of continuous integration. And now they're going to go to the next step, and they're going to hook up their Selenium user interface system regression tests into that, and that's all going to get fired off automatically. And this really does profoundly change the nature of the testing job, because it becomes much less about chasing down a ton of bugs, right? And it becomes more of a risk mitigation and confidence building exercise. And that's obviously just for everybody's perspective, it's a much nicer place to be. Glenda asks, have you used or done anything on any type of agile testing, Kanban, Lean? So do you have a favorite? One type work better for concrete or logical testing? Well, let me start with the last question here first, Glenda. I would say that if you're in the agile world, the only tests that you would really want to write that would be concrete would be the automated ones. The only tests that would actually have detailed specified inputs and expected results would be for the automated tools, because you have to, right? And then I would expect that, given the agile philosophy on lean documentation, Document only what's absolutely necessary. I would also have a corollary that don't have low-skilled people on the team that require highly detailed levels of documentation, because then they put you sort of out of sync with the Agile philosophy in general. So, I think the kind of level of detail that was shown in the test case presentation is probably what you're going to want in an Agile world at most. It might even be that you get even less formal than that, and you just say, okay, I'm going to take the use case and print it, or I'm going to copy it to a separate file just to make some notes on it, and that's going to become the test case, right? So, you're much less, even less written down than what I had shown, or even less writing work, which I think would be fine. Excuse me. Yeah, I think there are a lot of ways to use this technique within Agile, and just be creative, try to minimize the documentation, keep it lightweight. Now, regarding the specific techniques, a client that I'm working with right now is doing Agile development, and they're using the Kanban system, and like I said, they're using a lot of automated unit testing and so forth. And so I think there's a lot of good stuff happening. I would say, though, that we need to be careful, professionally speaking, of one tendency, which is let's not get so lightweight that we stop gathering data about the process, because this is something that I have seen a bit with some shops. And this is not just an Agile thing, but I think there are elements of Agile that could exacerbate this tendency. We should be able to measure how effective and efficient the process is, and yeah, sure, lightweight way, but you get to the point where people are saying, oh no, we shouldn't file bug reports at all. Well, that's a problem in my mind, because if you're not doing any tracking of defects, then you can't manage quality in any sort of quantitative way. Now, some people would say, oh, that doesn't matter, so the customers aren't reporting any bugs, then apparently we manage quality adequately. Well, not really, because you don't know if you're optimizing or not if you don't have data. But just in general, are there good things happening in the Agile world with testing? Yeah, there are now. I think we finally reached an inflection point where testing has started to figure out how to work work effectively within the Agile world. There are still challenges, and I did a webinar on that, which certainly you're all welcome to listen to. It's out on the digital library. It has some of the challenges that some of our clients with Agile have seen. But we are starting to see successful adoption of it. I will point out that people really are adopting it on their own terms. Like our client that I'm working with now, if an Agile purist were to go in there and look at some of the things that they're doing, they would have a conniption fit. They'd be jumping up and down. Oh, that's not Agile. You can't do that. That's not Agile. Well, you know what? Company can do whatever it wants to do. Whatever makes sense within its business context is what a company can and of course really should do, right? So I wouldn't get too worried about the orthodoxy. I'd just say focused on, collecting good ideas from the various techniques and putting them to use, because they do seem to be there. Okay. That seems to have closed out the questions. So to close this session, I'll tell you a little bit more about the resources available through RBCS. Once a week or so, I do a blog posting. So you can find this at rbcs-us.com/blog. Now, this is a fact-based rather than an opinion-spouting blog.